Well, I've got a little story to tell that I want to tell you right now over my morning coffee. I'm having a nice cup of coffee there, and I just want to put together something for you. And it's the story of how we got to Mach 2 and beyond with our wonderful branch of engineering called aeronautical engineering. Well, we have the Gloucester Media, 1949, breaking through Mach 0.9, and the P-80 Shooting Star and the F-86 Sabre, 1950, competing with the MiG-15 in Korea, and the Super Sabre was struggling to get to Mach 1 in 1951. And the F-102 Delta Dagger was there. Should have been the F-103, but it wasn't. F-101 Voodoo, 1953. Was fast. The F-104 was the fastest starfighter. It was known as the pilot killer. It was just a rocket with little winglets, really. The F-105 Thunder Chief was actually made ready for Vietnam. It was needed to compete against the MiG-19. And then in 1956, things changed. This is known as the Century Series of American aircraft development. The challenge being to break the sound barrier and to get to ever progressively get to faster speeds towards Mach 2. Anyway, in 56, the English Royal Air Force with Fairy Delta managed to get to Mach 1.5. So the story goes, and this may only be a story, but hey, it would make a great movie. The story goes that the British Royal Air Force top brass went over to the United States to talk to the American Air Force, and they said, I say, you Yankee chappies, we've managed to get our Fairy Delta aircraft to go at Mach 1.5. Don't you know? A full 300 miles an hour faster than anything that you've got. Well, what was the American reaction to this? I think it would have gone something like this. Heck dang, that's fast. By the way, if you wish to continue to receive funding from us for your subsonic bomber V-Force program, you are to cease and desist from chasing the supersonic flight records. You are not allowed to fly that Delta aircraft again. And that's sure enough what happened. We had to sell it to the French, and that became the basis for the Mirage Delta aircraft. After the British had left, the Americans would have informed the President. The President would have said, boys, get that record broken. Get that Pommy record broken within 12 months. You have an unlimited budget to do so. And so sure enough, within 12 months, they'd beaten it. With the F-107 Delta Dart, the B-58 Hustler, they strapped 4 engines onto a tiny Delta. They knew the Delta wing was good, so they strapped 4 engines onto a tiny Delta bomber. And it went pretty fast, didn't it? But the Northrop T-38 Talon, later became the F-5, was the shape of things to come, introduced in 59. But hey, guess what happened? 4 years later, the British Royal Air Force top brass went over to the States again. I think they enjoyed doing this, and they said to the American Air Force officials, I say, you Yankee trappers, we've managed to get our English Electric Lightning to go at Mach 2, don't you know? Actually, the truth is that, yes, they had, but it wasn't pretty. It was like the Super Sabre at Mach 1. It was unstable directionally, and there was buffeting. for the intake to be at the front end of the aircraft with a shock cone kind of thing, not great, not the best way of doing it. Anyway, this would have been what I might suppose was the American reaction at that time. Now then, hot dang, yes, that's fast, but guess what we've got happening right now? We have 2 Soviet K9s orbiting the Earth at Mach 22. Haul your lime asses back across that ditch. We don't want to hear from you again. And they would have got onto the phone to the president. And the president would have said, get that pommy record beaten within 12 months. You have an unlimited budget to do so. And then they got onto McDonnell and they said, get on with it. Get that voodoo improved. And that became the F-4 Phantom, and in 1961. I wouldn't say on the first test flight, but in a program series of trials, they gradually increased the speed of it to Mach 2.2 in 1961, and that aircraft then was the shape of things to come. It was the aircraft which destined everything previous to it to what's known as the trash can of history, and that's indeed how we got to Mach 2. It was comfortable, it was smooth. The flight at Mach 2.2 was described as smooth as a baby's bum. Okay, right. On from then, the next development, the 60s, was all about rocket, because the Russians had managed to get the first Sputnik satellite. They were ahead with their rockets development, so it was all about rocketry in the 60s, really, and developing nuclear missiles. The F-111 came along in 69, F-14, the F-15 set flight records in 75. We needed these to compete against the MiG-23 and the MiG-25, who were also those Russian aircraft. Excellent designs, were beating, were pushing through flight records, mainly rate of climb records. By the way, rate of climb records, the aircraft that held the rate of climb record for the longest, 26 years. It set it in 1960, and it held the record really officially for 26 years, was the English Electric Lightning. It had, most of these aircraft only have a thrust to weight ratio of about 1.1. The English Electric Lightning had a thrust to weight ratio of 1.3 to 1. Utterly incredible. They had a go at trying to beat the flight records with the F-15 and also the Russian MiG-25, but they were cheating. They were stripping down. They were stripping down the paint. The non-stripped down climb rate records, which includes full fuel load, full radar and weapons, you have to, the aircraft has to be operational to do the 20,000 a minute or thereabouts flight climb rate performance. The record set by the English Electric Lightning was not officially beaten until 1986. And then came the F-22 Raptor, which was incredible. The Americans needed that to compete against the Sukhoi program. And then finally in 2010, the F-35. But the emphasis now, fifth generation, was not on speed or climb rate. It was on stealth, and that's that defines a fifth generation aircraft as stealth, invisible or not invisible, but very low radar signature. And then on to sixth generation, probably will involve taking the human being out of the cockpit. And then seventh generation will be all about one day we'll crack, we'll be able to divert energy from a huge satellite in space to a remotely piloted vehicle to be able to do the laser beam ray gun type thing. Then it will go over to a Star Wars sort of a scenario. All right, well, thank you very much. That's my little 10-minute there for you. As I say, over a nice cup of coffee on a pleasant Wednesday morning.